Imagine a world where silence is not just an absence of sound, but a powerful tool for transformation. In today's fast-paced society, the ability to focus inward and embrace silence is often overlooked, but remains one of the greatest strengths anyone can cultivate. Buddha once said, "Silence is an empty space. Space is the home of the awakened mind." This profound truth invites us to step back from the chaos and discover clarity within. In this video, we'll uncover 7 transformative lessons that emphasize the power of silence and self-focus as taught by Buddhism. These lessons will empower you to navigate life with inner peace, self-awareness, and a deep sense of purpose. By the end, you'll not only understand the art of silence, but also know how to harness it for ultimate success. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly sat in silence? I'm not talking about that awkward quiet we feel when we're waiting for someone to speak, or the silence you try to fill by scrolling through your phone. I mean actual silence, the kind that surrounds you when you pause, take a deep breath, and just let everything else fade away for a moment. Now, here's the kicker. Most of us think of silence as, well, uncomfortable. It's this weird void, right? A space that begs to be filled with noise, chatter, music, anything. But what if I told you that silence is not the absence of something, but the presence of everything? Yeah, let that sink in for a second. In Buddhism, silence is seen as a teacher. It's not this blank, meaningless space we try to avoid. It's a powerful tool for self-discovery and growth. Silence is where we meet our true selves, raw, unfiltered, and real. The great Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Silence is essential. We need silence just as much as we need air, just as much as plants need light." Think about that. Silence is nourishment for the soul. Let me give you an example. Imagine sitting by a quiet lake at sunrise. There's no traffic noise, no phone buzzing, just you, the still water, and the sound of your breath. At first, your mind might race. You think about your to-do list, that awkward conversation you had yesterday, or even what you'll have for lunch. But slowly, as you let the silence settle in, something magical happens. Your thoughts calm down, your breathing slows, and for a brief moment, you feel connected to yourself, to nature, to something bigger than you. That's the power of redefining silence. Instead of seeing it as something to escape, you start to see it as a refuge, a place where you can breathe, think, and simply be. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, that sounds nice, but how do I get there? The good news is, it's easier than you think. Start small. Maybe set aside just 5 minutes a day to embrace silence. You don't need a fancy meditation setup or a quiet cabin in the woods. Just sit in your car before heading into work. Step outside and watch the clouds for a few moments, or close your eyes and focus on your breath while waiting for your coffee to brew. Over time, those little pockets of silence become something you actually look forward to. You start to crave them. And before you know it, silence shifts from being something you avoid to something you cherish. And here's a bonus. Silence doesn't just help you find clarity. It helps you deal with the noise of life. The more comfortable you get with silence, the less reactive you become. Someone says something rude? You don't feel the need to snap back. You've got silence in your corner, giving you the space to pause, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. So, let's flip the script on silence. Let's stop seeing it as an awkward gap or a void to fill. Instead, let's redefine it as a superpower, a gateway to clarity, strength, and peace. Trust me, once you embrace silence, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. All right, let's talk about loneliness. It's one of those feelings we all experience at some point. But let's be real. It's not something we like to admit, right? We've all had those moments where we're sitting by ourselves, scrolling through social media, seeing everyone else looking so happy and connected, and we think, why do I feel so alone? But here's the thing. Loneliness and solitude are not the same. They might look similar on the surface. Both involve being alone, but the difference lies in how we choose to experience it. Loneliness is when you feel disconnected, like you're missing something or someone. Solitude? Solitude is a choice. It's being alone on purpose and loving it. It's the difference between feeling left out and feeling empowered. Now, I get it. You might be thinking, yeah, easier said than done. But let's dig into what Buddhism says about this. In Buddhist teachings, solitude isn't about running away from the world or isolating yourself. It's about creating space to connect with your inner self, your thoughts, your emotions, your real you. Here's a story to illustrate this. There was a Buddhist monk who lived alone in a small hut deep in the forest. People would visit him and ask, "Aren't you lonely out here?" And he'd smile and say, "Lonely. How can I be lonely when I have the company of my thoughts, my breath, and the whole universe around me?" See what he did there? He flipped the narrative. What others saw as loneliness, he saw as an opportunity for growth and connection. And you can do the same. Think of solitude as a chance to hit pause on the chaos of life. When you're not surrounded by other people's opinions, expectations, or energy, you get to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I feel? Who am I when no one else is watching? Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're hosting a party, but it's so loud and crowded that you can't even hear yourself think. Solitude is like stepping into another room where it's quiet, so you can finally hear your own voice again. That's the kind of peace we're talking about here. Now, let's get practical. How do you turn loneliness into solitude? Start by doing something you enjoy, but do it alone. Take yourself out for coffee or a movie. Go for a walk in nature without your phone. Sit in a park and just watch the world go by. At first, it might feel strange, like you're missing something. But stick with it, because something amazing happens when you embrace solitude. You start to realize you're enough. And let's not forget, solitude is where some of the best personal growth happens. It's where you can reflect on your goals, your values, and your dreams without any outside noise. It's where you build self-love and self-acceptance because, let's face it, if you can enjoy your own company, you've unlocked a superpower most people spend their whole lives searching for. One of my favorite Buddhist teachings says, you, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. And solitude is the perfect time to give yourself that love. You don't need anyone else's approval, attention, or validation to feel whole. You already have everything you need within you. So, next time you feel that pang of loneliness, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is an opportunity. This is your moment to turn inward, to reconnect with yourself, and to transform loneliness into solitude. And when you do, you'll find that being alone isn't something to fear. It's something to celebrate. All right, let's get real for a second. How many times have you been in a situation where someone said something that just made your blood boil? Maybe it was a snide comment, an unfair critique, or just outright negativity. And what did you do? Maybe you snapped back or rushed to defend yourself. I mean, that's our instinct, right? to react, to respond, to prove our point. But here's the thing. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Yep, silence. And I'm not talking about the awkward, I don't know what to say kind of silence. I mean the deliberate, strategic, I'm in control here kind of silence. Buddhism teaches us that silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It's not about ignoring people or avoiding situations. It's about choosing when to engage and when to step back. Silence can be like a shield, protecting your energy and giving you the upper hand in ways words never could. Let's break it down. Imagine this. Someone criticizes you at work in front of others. You feel that urge to snap back, to defend yourself. But instead, you pause. You take a breath. You don't say anything. What happens? That person suddenly feels all the weight of their words. They're left standing in their own negativity. Meanwhile, you've stayed calm, composed, and, let's be honest, kind of intimidating in the best way possible. That's the power of silence. Buddhist wisdom in action. There's a story about Buddha that perfectly illustrates this. One day, a man came up to him, shouting insults and trying to provoke him. Buddha sat quietly, completely unaffected. When the man finally ran out of steam, Buddha simply asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The man answered, "It still belongs to the giver." Buddha smiled and said, "Exactly. I do not accept your anger, so it remains with you." How incredible is that? Buddha didn't need to argue or explain himself. His silence said it all. It showed wisdom, restraint, and an unshakable confidence. That's the kind of energy we're aiming for. Using silence strategically now, let's bring this into our daily lives. Silence isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's also about listening. Yes, listening. When you're quiet, you hear more than just words. You pick up on tone, emotion, and what's not being said. This can give you incredible insight into people's true intentions. Think about your relationships, whether it's at work, with friends, or with family. How often do we jump in to fill the silence? What if, instead, you paused and really listened? Silence gives you the chance to understand others better, to see things from their perspective, and to respond, not react, with intention. The power of the pause. Here's another way silence is a game changer. It gives you time to think. Let's say you're in a heated argument, and you're tempted to say something you know you'll regret later. If you pause, if you hold back, you give yourself a moment to process. That silence can be the difference between escalating a conflict and defusing it. Practical tips for using silence. Pause before responding. Whether it's in a conversation, an email, or a text, take a moment before you reply. Ask yourself, is this response necessary? Will it help or hurt the situation? Stay silent. During criticism, not every attack needs a counterattack. Sometimes silence is the best way to show confidence and rise above negativity. Listen. More. In meetings, with friends, or even in casual chats, focus on listening more than speaking. You'll be amazed at how much you can learn. Practice observing without reacting. The next time you're in a tense situation, experiment with staying silent. Notice how it changes the dynamics. A modern example. Let's take this into today's world. Social media. Oh boy, is there a lot of noise there. Someone posts something inflammatory or outright false, and our first instinct is to jump in and set the record straight. But do we really need to? Sometimes silence is the smarter move. It shows maturity, confidence, and an ability to rise above the chaos. Silence builds strength. Here's the beautiful irony. Silence might seem passive, but it's one of the most active things you can do. It requires discipline, patience, and self-control. And the more you practice it, the stronger you become. Remember, silence is not about shutting down or avoiding life. It's about choosing your battles, conserving your energy, and showing the world that your confidence doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you don't need to say. Let's get real for a minute. How often do we find ourselves doing things just to hear someone say, "Good job"? Whether it's posting a photo on social media, sharing a big achievement, or even just fishing for a compliment, we all fall into the trap of seeking validation. And let's be honest, it feels good, right? But here's the catch. When you depend on validation from others, you're handing over your self-worth to people who might not even care about your happiness. Buddhism flips this script entirely. It teaches us that our worth doesn't come from what others think. It comes from within. Think about it. When you're constantly chasing approval, you're like a puppet, and everyone else holds the strings. You're dancing to their tune instead of living your truth. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to enjoy recognition. It's human. But the problem is when we start needing it. Here's a little exercise. Think about the last time someone praised you. Felt great, didn't it? But what happened when that praise didn't come again? Did you feel empty? That's the validation trap. How to break free. Breaking free from this cycle isn't easy, but it's possible. Start small. Celebrate your wins privately. Did you crush a workout? Finish a project? Take a quiet moment to say, "I did that," and let it sink in. Over time, you'll find that internal validation feels so much more solid than the fleeting approval of others. Here's a mantra I love. I am enough. Say it out loud. Say it in the mirror. Say it until you believe it. Because once you start living for yourself instead of for likes or applause, you'll find a kind of freedom that no amount of validation can match. Here's a tough truth. Sometimes the best way to move forward is by stepping back. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But stepping back feels like giving up. Nope, it's not giving up. It's leveling up. Think about it like this. You're carrying a backpack full of heavy rocks. Each rock represents stress, toxic relationships, bad habits, or situations that drain you. How far can you really go with all that weight? Strategic withdrawal is about setting that backpack down, sorting through those rocks, and deciding which ones you actually need to carry. What Buddhism teaches about withdrawal. Buddhism sees withdrawal not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of wisdom. It's about knowing when something no longer serves you and having the courage to let it go. Whether it's a toxic friendship, a draining job, or even an unhealthy mindset, stepping away gives you space to heal and grow. A personal story. I once had a job that paid well but drained every ounce of my energy. I stayed way longer than I should have because I didn't want to feel like a quitter. But the day I walked away, that was the day I started living for myself again. And you know what? My life didn't fall apart. It got better. That's the power of strategic withdrawal. Practical tips start small. Maybe it's as simple as taking a break from social media or saying no to a commitment that doesn't align with your goals. Create boundaries. Protect your energy. And remember, stepping back isn't about retreating. It's about making room for something better. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how some people talk a lot about their plans, but nothing ever comes of it? Now, Think about someone who doesn't say much but shows up with results that leave you speechless. Who do you respect more? Exactly. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful concept about the power of quiet effort. It's not about shouting your goals from the rooftops. It's about doing the work silently and letting your results do the talking. The wisdom of nature. Think about a tree. Does it announce when it's going to grow? Number. It just does its thing, quietly and steadily. And one day you look up and there's this massive tree providing shade and fruit. That's what it means to let your results speak for you. How to apply this in your life. Next time you set a goal, resist the urge to tell everyone about it. Instead, pour your energy into actually achieving it. When the results come, they'll speak louder than any announcement ever could. Here's the best part. When you stop seeking recognition, you start working for the joy of it. You're not performing for an audience. You're building something real. And trust me, that kind of success is way more fulfilling. All right, let's talk about reactivity. You know the drill. Someone cuts you off in traffic and suddenly you're yelling at your windshield like it's a boxing match. Or maybe someone says something rude and you fire back with a snarky comment. Feels good in the moment, right? But what about after? That anger, that frustration, it lingers. It eats away at your peace. Buddhism offers a different path. It teaches us that freedom lies in not reacting. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about ignoring your feelings or letting people walk all over you. It's about choosing your response instead of letting your emotions run the show. The power of the pause. Here's a little trick. When something triggers you, pause. Just for a moment. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. A story from Buddha's life. Once, a man came to Buddha, furious and insulting him. Buddha stayed calm and silent. When the man finally stopped, Buddha asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, who does the gift belong to?" The man replied, "It stays with the giver." Buddha smiled and said, "Then I refuse your anger." That's what freedom from reactivity looks like. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about rising above them. Practical steps. Practice mindfulness. When something triggers you, notice the feeling but don't act on it right away. Remind yourself that not everything needs a reaction. Silence can be the most powerful response. Use affirmations like, "I am in control of my emotions," to ground yourself in tense moments. The freedom you'll feel. When you master non-reactivity, life gets lighter. You're no longer a puppet on the strings of anger, frustration, or fear. Instead, you're the one holding the strings. You're in control. And that, my friend, is true freedom. So, next time life throws a curveball, take a breath, pause, and choose peace. Because the strongest person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest. It's the one who stays calm and steady in the storm. Mastering silence and self-focus is not just a Buddhist teaching, but a life-changing approach to success. It's about finding strength within, letting go of distractions, and embracing the wisdom that arises from stillness. By practicing these lessons, you can cultivate a life of clarity, resilience, and true fulfillment. Thank you for joining this journey of self-mastery. If these lessons resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more transformative content.